What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Today, we're looking at NFL futures here with Danny Brasco. And now we're moving on to the NFC East. And you got the Eagles at the top here, minus 105. Then you got the Cowboys, plus 165. Giants, plus 700. Commanders, plus 1,300. This division, Danny, to me seems much more wide open than just the Eagles. Now, I understand why the Eagles are the favorite, but there's a reason why they're only minus 105. The Eagles are due for regression. I'm sorry, Philadelphia fans. I know you don't want to hear this, but you're not going to win the same amount of games that you did. You had an easy schedule last year. You've got a hard schedule coming up this year. You are still a great team. You brought everybody back. I expect you to be competitive and good, but you're going to regress. Who do you like?
I couldn't agree more. And we mentioned it all season last year. We were waiting for the other shoe to fall. We were waiting for the regression to happen. They just kept winning games. So shout out to them. They made it all the way to the championship. But hey, now they have a Super Bowl schedule. Yeah, exactly. Yes. They went from cakewalk schedule to Super Bowl schedule. Yep. And it's going to get harder. I do think they'll be very good and very competitive. The roster did not dip off at all. In fact, you could argue it got better. But you know whose roster also got better? The Dallas Cowboys. And these two teams are going to compete.
Giants.
You know what, Katie? First, we'll talk about my Giants here. By the way, I got my Morty doll rocking my Giants hat. Tiki Barber signed. Jason Sehorn signed hat. Jason Sehorn? Who knows about that? But I went bowling with them, actually. It was at a bowling event. It was really cool. I was a kid.
That is cool. All right, the boys.
Look, I want to have some faith in my New York Giants, and I love Brian Daboll, and I love the changes we've made to this franchise, just the culture. But I do think that some negative regression is going to happen. The Giants just really overachieved last season. I can count on probably four hands a number of times I was watching the game with one of my buddies, and Daboll ran up a play, and I was like, the coach just scored. He just tailor-made the perfect play. Forget who was on the field. Me and you could have ran that play and scored in the NFL. So you see that happen so many times. I'm feeling like Daboll has film out on him now in his game plan. And I think coaches will be able to plan a little bit better against these Giants. Daniel Jones is due for regression. They paid him way more than I would have hoped and signed him to a massive contract. And I don't think he'll be able to produce at the rate he did. It's a Saquon Barkley injury away from collapsing. And I'm really, really concerned to me. We franchise tag Barkley, so we have him for another year. But I'm just concerned about this Giants offense. I think the defense will be stout and solid, as it usually is. But we've won so many games on the road for so many seasons. It just feels like we overachieved last year. I don't think we'll have as good of a season. We could fight for the wild card spot for sure. Yeah. But, man, the two-headed monster at the top of this division of the Cowboys and Eagles is going to be very good. And I like the Cowboys to win it at, we got plus 165 right now on Caesars.
Yeah.
The NFC East has not had a repeat champion since 2004, and I'm going to go with that to continue. Yeah. I mean, over and over again. That's a lot. It's almost a decade now, two decades, excuse me. So, look, they added Brandon Cooks to that wide receiver core with CeeDee Lamb. If Michael Gallup stays healthy, that's a really good three receivers right there. And as good as that defense was, and I talked about the turnovers they forced and the secondary and the pass rush, they added Stephon Gilmore and they drafted Moxie Smith. The line just got scarier, and the secondary just got scarier. Cowboys could be good this year. I'm going to go with them to win the NFC East.
As a Giants fan, you as a Giants fan, I'm obviously a 49ers fan. But that's interesting to say that you're taking the Cowboys here because, drinking Cowboy fans' tears is a favorite pastime of yours and everyone in the NFC East. Right. I agree with everything that you're saying. It's like it's between the Eagles and the Cowboys to win the division. However, I've got a long shot, like a very, very long shot to win the conference. And that's the Giants at plus 1,600. Okay, and I know
to win the NFC.
Long shot. Listen to me. To me. Okay. All right. So obviously we've already talked about it. Eagles headed for some regression here. The Niners are stacked. There's still some question marks about the quarterback situation that makes it a little hard to bet on futures outside of the division, of course. You got the Cowboys who look stacked and look good, but they tend to fall apart in the playoffs. And that is something that happens every single year. They were first round bounce out for the longest time. Then they got to the second round, and guess what? The Niners bounced them out last year. Then you got the Saints, Vikings, Lions. There's too many question marks for me. And then that leaves the Giants at plus 1,600. You got Danny Dimes, who's made some massive strides since Brian Daboll took over as head coach. And really, without any wide receivers last year, I mean, who did he have? Now you got Darren Waller, you got Paris Campbell, you got Jamison Crowder. They ended the season last year 10-7. They advanced to the playoffs, and all of that despite a projected win total of just 6.5. They went 10-7 last year. I don't know that there's a clear-cut NFC East winner, but I think that the Giants are kind of frisky. So if you're looking for a long shot to win the conference.
Wow, that is surprising to me. I'm gonna have to go the opposite. I got to go the opposite way on you on this one. And I love the faith you have in this Giant. And I really do love Brian Daboll and the direction this franchise is headed in. I just don't think we're gonna have as much success as we did last year. You just mentioned we won 10 games, made the wild card, beat the Vikings in the wild card game, right?
Biggest frauds of the year, and they're still frauds. Yeah,
100% perennial frauds. Their win total set at 7.5 this season, Katie, and I feel like that's super telling. And I lean to the under. I feel like you can get it at 8 on some books. I believe on Caesars it might be 8 now, but minus 141 for the under. So, man, I just feel like.
Have you seen what Danny Dimes looks like? Have you watched it? He's looking swole. The man has put on some weight. He's looking swole. He's got someone that believes in him. He's got some pass catchers. Look, I'm not disagreeing with anything you say, but if you're looking for a long shot to win the conference, I don't think that the Giants are a bad bet. But moving on to the NFC South, you got the Saints now with Derek Carr to win the division, the favorites plus 120. Then you got the Falcons plus 240, the Panthers plus 340, and the Bucks. Have the Bucks fallen, but they still got Baker Mayfield at center at plus 800. This to me is probably the most perplexing division to try to figure out, because every single team on here is full of question marks. There's not one team that I'm like, yes, I believe in them. Now, I think it's the Saints because they've got Derek Carr, right? They've got the only proven good quarterback, of the bunch. You got Baker Mayfield, and then you got a couple rookies coming on. How are you handicapping this division, and who do you think comes out on top?
Yeah, you're totally right. This one's up for grabs, and this was the hardest one to make a pick in, I feel like, because it's an injury away from everything changing. I wanted to take the Saints as the favorites here, plus 120. Carr, like you mentioned, known commodity. We know, but despite his struggles, he hasn't always had the best situation around him. And, he walks into a pretty good wide receiver core here, getting Michael Thomas back. Chris Olave is there for him. So he could have success. Jarvis Landry could certainly have success with those guys. But I find myself wanting to take a long shot in a division that's up for grabs. And I don't know how great he'll do in year one, but I like the Carolina Panthers at plus 380.
I thought you were going to say Buccaneers. I was like holding my breath for you to be like, I think Baker Mayfield's the guy. Okay.
I'm not.
Yes, I agree with you. Keep going.
I'm not backing Baker, even though we saw a couple of resurgence games from him last year here and there. I think those are flash in the pan. So I'm going to go with the Panthers. Look, if Bryce Young can be that guy, I mean, they're set up for success. I don't know how well he'll do in year one, but if he doesn't do great, if he gets injured, Andy Dalton's right behind him, and I can trust that guy. Look, he's not the Andy Dalton of old, but he's a serviceable quarterback, and I think he can help his team win games, just game managing if it doesn't work out early on or an injury is sustained to Bryce Young. You look at this Panthers team, I mean, they're pretty good on paper. Last year, they were a top defense, and I think if they keep that, although they lost Steve Wilkes, their defensive coordinator, who was really a large part of that, he's onto the Chiefs now, I believe. I think that defense will remain. Yeah, it was a great acquisition for them, by the way. I think the defense will remain solid. It's got really good depth across the board there. And on offense, I mean, man, they got some protection for their quarterback at the running back position. They got Miles Sanders, and behind him, Chuba Hubbard, who had himself a pretty good year. That's a good 1-2 punch at RB. Wide receivers, Adam Thielen, out from Minnesota into Carolina. DJ Chark, out from Jacksonville, into Carolina here. Laviska Shenault, Terrence Marshall. I mean, they've got some athletic bodies there that can really help a rookie quarterback. So I like the receivers. I like the running backs. And Frank Reich is now the head coach, and he can make all the difference. I really like him for a rookie QB. I think that marriage will be strong. Give me the Panthers at big plus odds to pull off a nice upset and win this division that could end up coming down to one game or the last stretch of the season, I feel like.
I am with you on this as well. And I like the Carolina Panthers at plus 340. You talk about, we've talked about Aaron Rodgers and his kind of revenge tour. Frank Reich is also on a revenge tour. Okay, the guy was let go, and then they put an ESPN analyst in his place. So if anyone needs to win this year, it is definitely Frank Reich. And, you talk about how good this defense was and probably still is, and that they've got protection for the quarterback. The problem last year, one of the biggest problems was quarterback. Carolina ranked 29th in passing yards and 27th in quarterback rating last season. It can really only go up from there. Young threw for 8,200 yards and 79 touchdowns across his final 2 seasons of Bama. And reports out of Carolina are that Young is actually running the offense quite well. He looks really good. And Andy Dalton, thank God, has already been designated as a backup and a mentor, because raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by betting on Andy Dalton, because I sure as hell have, and I don't want to do it anymore. So I'm very happy that things are going well. I think that the NFC South is the worst division in football, right? To me right now. And it's really just wide open. I'm not sold on the Saints, and the Falcons being favored above Carolina to take the division. It's just not sitting well with me either. I like this plus 340. They're plus 175 to make the playoffs. Their win total is set relatively high at 7.5, with that over juiced to minus 120. So I do think that the Panthers are definitely a team that you want to keep your eye on and lock in some of these futures early, because I agree with you, Danny. This team is stacked more than what appears to the eye, and I like them. I like them a lot.
And you look at a team that's coming off a bad season, the one prior, their schedule is going to be easier than the guys who made it deep into the playoffs. So, if they've got some winnable games and it's super, winnable division, like we're saying, right? If we feel like this is the weaker division in the NFL, then they should be able to, beat up on teams in that division. So maybe you're looking at 4 or 5 wins just in the division right there. I mean, they could get over this win total and win the division. I believe in it. And it'll come down to who can go like 500 or a game above 500,
Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer: hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Summer is just around the corner, and it might just be the best one yet. Thanks to the summer of Dash Pass from DoorDash. With a Dash Pass membership, you can save big now through July 19th on swimsuits, beach snacks, sunscreen, and more. With the summer of Dash Pass, you'll enjoy $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees on all eligible orders, making it easier and more affordable than ever to stock up on all your favorite summertime essentials. But that's not all. You'll also get access to thousands of offers nationwide, ensuring that this summer is one to remember. So kick back, relax, and let Dash Pass help you experience the best of your neighborhood for less. Summer of Dash Pass is a once-a-year event you don't want to miss. Thanks to the chance to get special access to members-only events, whether you're into sports, music, or just great snacks. Get ready to lower your costs and raise the bar this summer with limited edition drops and exclusive items to level up all season long. Experience a summer like no other. Best your best summer with a Dash Pass membership from DoorDash today. Sign up for Dash Pass now and you'll get your first month free. Plus, when you use our promo code, get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your next Dash Pass order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code Moxie Summer. That's 50% off when you spend $10 or more on your next Dash Pass order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code Moxie Summer. Don't forget code Moxie Summer for 50% off your next order. Subject to change. Terms apply. Now looking at the NFC North, have the mighty fallen. The Packers are at the bottom here, plus 500. They reigned kings of the North for many, many years. No Aaron Rodgers anymore to terrorize the Bears. They're still second to last on the odds boards at plus 350. Then you got the Vikings, the biggest frauds in the NFL. And then the Detroit Lions are the favorite to win the division at plus 120. The Fighting Dan Campbells to win the division. I mean, that's basically what I call them now. Look, I'm not betting on the Vikings. I'm not betting on the Vikings. I think that they're frauds. They won so many single score games last year. They are due for some regression. I'm not doing that. The Packers, I don't know what to expect from Jordan Love. So even at plus 500, I'm not taking that. The Bears are kind of interesting to me at plus 350. I mean, they made some really big moves, and they had the number 1 overall. They traded that. They got some people back, and I believe in Justin Fields. I actually do. I know that Ohio State quarterbacks don't usually translate to anything in the bigs, and they can't run him into the ground. He's got to be a passing quarterback, and they got him some weapons, and I think he's going to do better. But he is very talented. So at the Bears at plus 350, I'm not mad at it. Not mad at it.
You know what? And I like that you're looking at the Bears over some of these other teams because they are interesting. And I agree with you. I mean, Justin Fields feels like he's very close to breaking out, and he's a fantastic player. So yeah, I agree that if they put the right situation around him, he could thrive. But man, when have you seen the Lions as a favorite to win this division? I mean, never. And the Packers are in rebuild mode. And neither of us believe in the Vikings, who I love that you mentioned how many single possession games they won last year. It's an absurd amount. And you got to feel like, and hey, what happened in the playoffs? They lost a one possession game. So you got to feel like some of that flips. They lost Dalvin Cook, of course. That's going to be a big difference maker. Adam Thielen's gone. So, I mean, that changes a lot. We'll get to know a little bit about Kirk Cousins' mentality after we watch NFL films when that comes out. So maybe have some more insight into what we think he will be like coming into this year. But we're selling on the Vikings. So I can't believe I'm taking the favorite Detroit Lions. I'm calling them that now. The Fighting Dan Campbells. That's amazing. This guy's totally changed the culture of the team. They play so hard for him. And even though they lost Jamal Williams, I still feel like they'll be really strong at running back. That wide receiver core is nasty. Amon-Ra St. Brown is absurd. And behind him, they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of guys. It seems like a turnstile of athletic and talented receivers that keep making big plays for them. So I believe in this defense as well to stay gritty and stay strong and stout and be able to win a division that's truly weakened. The Packers have been picking on this division for a long time, and I don't think that's going to be the case this year. So I'm taking the favorite Detroit Lions to take the NFC North.
It's so funny. I was reading an article the other day on Pro Football Focus, and they rated Amon-Ra St. Brown as the best slot receiver in the NFL right now, which is crazy because he's up against people like Cooper Kupp. But yeah, I mean, he's a beast. And I agree. And, for as much as I like to make fun of Jared Goff as a 49ers fan, he looked good last season. And, there's just so much to be said. And look, maybe that's because there wasn't as many expectations on him.
Totally.
In Detroit as there were in Los Angeles, City of Lights with the boy wonder coach. And they basically said, please take him. The deal that they gave him away with was embarrassing for someone that drafted as high as he did and that actually got to a Super Bowl. But so I think he had a chip on his shoulder, and he was in a space where there wasn't really all this pressure on him, and he was really allowed to relax. And he did well. So I'm very interested to see how he does there. Now, one bet that I was – now we know that I like Anthony Richardson, right? And so do you for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I do think that there's some upside to Jordan Addison out of USC with the Vikings. Obviously, Minnie has the reigning Offensive Player of the Year in Justin Jefferson. But Danny, we know that defenses are going to likely double, triple team him. I mean, they're really going to overcommit to Jefferson. And then you've got this shifty route runner in Addison who can create consistent separation. I mean, we saw that in college. The injury concerns are valid. I think he has missed almost all of OTAs and maybe the start of minicamp. However, O'Connell did say that he expects Addison to be a full go by the time training camp starts. He's going to be a day one starter. I can see the belief in Addison clearly reflected also in in Jefferson's receiving total prop. So he's coming off an 1,800 yard year, and his over under is dropped to just 1,375.5. So I kind of look for Addison to pop out on the stat sheet, and I wouldn't be afraid to take him in fantasy, as we start to draft some of those. But I think that he could take not necessarily things away from Jefferson, but I think he's going to be the number one option now that Thielen, of course, isn't there as well when Jefferson is maybe tied up. And so I kind of like him for a little bit of a dark horse here for Offensive Rookie of the Year and certainly for fantasy.
I like the logic there. Totally. I mean, you have that big name player. They get double teams. They get, target share taken away from them when teams, try to take one side of the field away from you and take that wide receiver out of the game. Addison could be a huge beneficiary of that. So that's an interesting look there, and maybe he'll really break out. Other bets in this division I might like. I'm really interested in potentially now you've piqued my interest in the Bears. I feel like it'll come down to
Let's
These teams
go.
are going to battle. These teams are going to battle it out. And I don't put it past the Bears to be able to win 8 games. I really don't. That could be interesting.
Yes. What's their line? Is it 7.5 or 7?
7.5. Yeah.
Yeah, they won 3 games last year. So I think this is, yes, a 7 or an 8 win team. And I agree with you. I think that they can win. I think that they can win 8.
It looks like the same line last year as the Lions a little bit, right? The Lions had won, 3 or 4 games in the season prior?
Yeah.
And over 6.5 was minus 160 when we were looking at it. And we said, you know what? We're going to lay the chalk and do it. I mean, why is this line so juiced to the over for a team that had such a bad year the year prior? Seems very similar for the Bears here. 7.5 coming off a 3-win season you mentioned. And it's juiced to minus 135. I mean, 4.5 games. Well, I mean, everyone that should draw a lot of under bets for, the casual fan. So I know from the way the odds makers have said it, that says over to me.
Let's go Bears. All right, now for my favorite division, the NFC West. Niners are leading the odds boards here, minus 175. That's been up. I believe it was like minus 120 or minus 140 earlier. So we've already lost some value on this. Reports out of the 49ers organization is that Brock Purdy is healing very well. They expect him at this point to be ready to go by week 1. I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Lance moves at some point in the beginning of the season. And also Sam Darnold looks to be doing pretty well as well. And then you got the Seahawks, who just re-signed. Finally, Geno Smith got paid at plus 210. They've still got some great receivers and options for him. It's not someone that you want to overlook. They've kind of beefed up their that secondary a little bit. Then you got the Rams at plus 850. Don't put your money on them. And the Cardinals at plus 2,700. Please don't put your money on them. I don't even know if they're going to win 1 game. So this is one where it's like, I do believe it's the 49ers that come out of this division. But I'm not mad at people wanting to do the plus 210 on the Seahawks. What do you think?
Yeah. And obviously this is your squad. So we know where your heart lies, but I think it's in the right place, monetarily as well. If you're going to look to take a bet with pure unbiased logic here, it's a 2-team race. And it's the Niners and the Seahawks. The other 2 teams you mentioned, the Rams and the Cardinals, are in full rebuild mode. So we look away from them and, might even look to play their under on win totals if it's not absurdly low. I mean, you feel like the Cardinals might not win a game. I don't really love the coach they brought in. We'll see how he fares. But I didn't like Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know if I'll like Jonathan Gaines much either in this system. So we'll see how that plays out. But I got to go with the Niners at chalk, just because I feel like even if Brock Purdy is still recovering from that injury or it's affecting him in his play, that Trey Lance will actually be ready this season. He's been working with Patrick Mahomes, and there's a lot of good reports on him. If it doesn't work out with Purdy for whatever reason, he goes down due to injury, he's playing poorly, and there's some regression in year 2. I don't think those things will happen. I like what I saw from him, but I actually have confidence that the backup situation could be okay. And I accidentally misspoke before. I said Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator from the Panthers, went to the Chiefs. He's on your Niners now, and they replace DeMeco Ryans, who was so beloved and did such an unbelievable job on that defense. He goes and gets his money and gets a head coaching job as he should. And they replace him with Wilks. That's a really good replacement. They didn't lose too much in that. Of course, I love Ryans, but Wilks is a great D coordinator.
One, I can't believe I didn't catch that. Like, hello, I'm a
that was
49ers fan. Well, I know a lot of people do think that the 49ers, I should have corrected you. A lot of people think there's going to be some regression for the 49ers with their defense. I mean, we still have Fred Warner. We still have Nick Bosa. We got Hargrave from
Hargrave. I mean, adding Hargrave to that line is horrifying.
Right. And it's like, there was no drop off between Saleh and DeMeco, but DeMeco obviously came up in the ranks, with the 49ers on the defensive coaching staff. And you got someone like Steve Wilks who's coming from I don't think we're going to see any regression with this defense. Now, maybe that's just me being the homer talking here, but it's just so stacked. And like you said, maybe it's not going to be the same scheme that it was, when Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans were all kind of the same thought process. But I think it's going to be mean and it's going to be ugly, and you don't want to line up against them. And I disagree with you though, where one, I think Brock Purdy is going to start week 1. And I think that he's earned that. Even though Trey Lance is the number 3 pick overall, Brock Purdy proved himself last season. A guy doesn't win that many games and then you bench him. That doesn't make any sense. So if for everybody listening that's like up in arms about this, it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Brock Purdy is the starter if he's healthy and ready to go, which I believe that he is. I also, and I believe, it's not that I don't believe in Trey Lance. I definitely believe in Kyle Shanahan and I definitely believe in John Lynch. And whatever they saw in him, I trust. All I know is that he wasn't ready. Not that he wasn't ready, but he wasn't, the quarterback quality that you would want starting. You know that a rookie's going to lose some games. You know they're going to make mistakes. You know you're going to, we didn't see that with Brock Purdy too much, but for the most part, you end up seeing that kind of stuff. And we saw that within the first 2 games. It's like, do we really want to go backwards and see that again and wait for him to come up to speed? No, we don't. Not when we've got someone like Brock Purdy and not when we have someone like Sam Darnold, who I'll remind you, Sam Darnold had terrible coaches. You think that Sam Darnold in a Kyle Shanahan offense, when everybody always says it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, stick anybody there and they're going to be great. All right. Sam Darnold is actually a damn good quarterback. And now he's got a good, I think that the depth chart is going to go Purdy, Darnold, Lance. And I think Lance is going to get moved and hopefully Lance will be able to go somewhere where he can start and be successful because I do believe that he was chosen for a reason. I just think the circumstances are as such that he will not be a 49ers quarterback.
And you know what? I don't disagree with what you said. Like my point that I meant to say was even if Purdy is injured or something goes wrong early on in the season, I believe in the rest of the quarterback chart to be able to keep the Niners atop the division with a really stout defense. So I agree with the points you made. It should be Purdy to start. I think Lance has a chance to be good where if whether he stays or goes. And Darnold, I wouldn't sleep on him. He has had some really, rough start to his career, but he's been the prisoner of some tough situations, bad teams, bad coaching, and his talent level doesn't necessarily reflect the stats that he's put up on the page so far. So he could maybe get some time depending on how it shakes out and actually look good. I do want to talk about the Seahawks briefly because I would be doing them a disservice if I didn't. Look, they're going to be good this year. And there's a lot of people that are going to pick them. I'm going to be betting on them in a number of games. Geno, I don't think there'll be drop off this year. Pete Carroll's figured out how to use this guy. And them drafting Jackson Smith and Jigba is huge. I mean, that wide receiver core is tough. I think they're going to be really, really good this year. And we won't see too much regression from the Seahawks. In fact, I think they'll improve. So look for them to give the Niners all they can handle, and this for this to be a 2-team race in the NFC West. And watch out for the Seahawks, who I think a lot of people will continue to sleep on.
I agree. And I see a lot of talking heads and articles and everything thinking that there's going to be some regression from Geno and he's going to fall off. Well, I don't really see that either. I'm not a big Seahawks fan, obviously, but I am a Geno Smith fan and I'm rooting for him unless he's playing for my team or against my team, rather. I will say you touched on this quickly about the Cardinals. Their win total is set to 5. It is the lowest projected total of 2023. And let me tell you, I'm taking that under and I'm laying $1.30 on it because I don't see how the Cardinals win almost any games this season, even with such a low total. Like you said, rookie head coach, rookie offensive coordinator, rookie defensive coordinator, rookie general manager. Okay. Nobody knows what they're doing there. There's no sense of who this organization is right now because everybody is brand new. And, the quarterback situation too, it's like Kyler Murray out for most of the season, I would assume. He tore an ACL in December of last year. So who's your quarterback? Colt McCoy? Okay, you get rid of D-Hop. I feel like Ertz is next. They're going full tank at this point, this season. And if you look at their NFC rivals, which we just did, you got the Niners who are tied for the highest win total at 11.5. And then the Seahawks are pretty high at 9, I believe they are right now. Rams 6.5, but they still have Sean McVay and they still have Matthew Stafford and they still have Aaron Darnold. Okay. The Cardinals might not win a game in their own division. I don't care if it's 5, take the under.
Yeah, that would be 6 losses right there if they lost outright to the NFC West. And it's moved to 4.5, Katie. So I agree. If you can find a 5 out there.
Better value, though. Better value at 4.5. Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree. But I would play the flat number at 5 so you can push if they get that 5th win. I think that's worth paying the 25-cent difference in minus 130 versus minus 105. However, look, Katie doesn't think they're getting 5 wins. Katie's not sure if they get 1 win. So you can play 4.5 if you're that confident in the atrocity that will be the Arizona Cardinals. I would play under 5 though, and I don't think they get that 5th win. So, but just in case, I want that security for the push on the flat number. Yeah. But I would agree with you.
Like it. All right, one last question before we go. Looking at the Super Bowl, never too early. What do you think, Carrie? Chiefs, of course, never a bad bet. At +6, it is never a bad bet to bet on the Chiefs to win a Super Bowl. We have seen it too many times. And then you got the Eagles +750. I don't think either of you are taking that bet. The Niners +850. It's interesting, but there's still a lot of questions on quarterback, and they have not been able to get over the NFC Championship hump over the last couple of years. Bills, tell you what, they're not getting my money at +900. I like the Bengals here at +1,000. And, for everything that we just talked about with the people at the top, it's like, I think that Bengals at 10-1 might be the highest that we see their odds all season. We already know that I like that division to possibly win the Super Bowl. I do think the Bengals are the best. And you got Joe Burrow, who seems to be Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite, only quarterback to beat him 3 times. So if we're saying bet chalk on this, go Chiefs, well, who's the only person that can kind of beat him? It's Joe Burrow. And I like him. And they probably have the best trio of receivers. You got Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd. They made some improvements on their defense in the draft. At 10-1, I think that these odds will shift. It's a good time to buy in on the Bengals.
You know what's so funny, Katie? I picked the Ravens to win the AFC North, and I kind of like the Bengals to win the whole thing with you as well. Like, I could see them sneaking into the wild card in playing in a really competitive division, a very competitive AFC this season, and making a run. Joe Burrow, enough said, right? What else do I have to say? I mean, this guy is next up, I think. And he was a couple bad calls in that AFC Championship game away from beating Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Chiefs got a lot of help from the referees to win not only that game, but also the Super Bowl. It kind of felt like the NFL wanted them all the way there, and that was going to be the Disney pick, if you will. But, yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of moments we could point to where, like, man, they got a good break there. So I kind of like that with you in terms of an AFC pick at plus 1,000 odds on Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Mm-hmm. And if I want to look at an NFC side, which I feel like is the easier path to the Super Bowl. I mean, look at it. We're picking, the Panthers could win the South, the Lions could win the North. So yeah, I like those teams to have, research or maybe a positive regression seasons and outperform expectations. But I don't think they're making a Super Bowl push. I like the Cowboys to win the NFC East. I like the Cowboys to potentially get all the way to the Super Bowl this season. If that defense takes another step up, I mean, they might be damn near impossible to score on behind that secondary and defensive line. So, yeah, if they stay healthy, I don't see why the Cowboys can't overtake the Eagles for that best team in the NFC and maybe even win the whole thing.
Wow. I mean, hopefully it's the Niners. I'll say that. Hopefully it's the Niners, but
I'm not putting my money on them. You see how much pride I've thrown to the side. My Giants pride is completely not in this show. And I just predicted the Cowboys to potentially come out of the NFC and win the Super Bowl. Like, inside, my stomach is turning, but I just said the words, and I feel like I'm a little proud of myself.
I'm proud of you as well. And you got to go, you got to spend money where it is worth spending money. Danny Brasco, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on social and tweet us your questions. We may answer them on a show. We will see you next time. Bye.